Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Connection Show. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a transformation coach, I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I'm a spiritual leader. I'm spiritual head of the Transformation Center, which is based in Westport, Connecticut. So in addition to the private individual coaching and healing sessions that I do, we also offer different workshops and classes. Here at the center, we have special events. We do sound baths in the backyard during the warmer months, which are really popular. So I'm going to put up our slide with the contact info, and you can go on our website and find out what's going on each month. Every month there's something different, but one consistent event we have is the second Tuesday evening of every month. We offer a shamanic healing clinic. And this is an opportunity for you to find out a little bit more about shamanism. And you can sign up for just a half-hour session. So in that half hour, you will get an extraction healing and some medicine drumming. So it's an introductory type of offer. And we offer this to the community. There's no set fee for it. It's all what you would like to pay if you would like to donate anything. So that's a great opportunity. We also have a class coming up starting this October, which is all about consciously creating the life of your dreams. And I'm teaching this with Michelle Giliberto of Healers Who Share. So it's going to be phenomenal. It's based on the book called The Map by Bonnie Lonsberry. So check that out. You can register now. It's a 6-week course, and we're doing a hybrid version. So you can do it on Zoom if you're not near Connecticut, or you can come in person. And it's a very small class. We're limiting it size. So check that out on the website. All right. So those of you who have seen the Spiritual Connection show before, you know that I'm all about connection. It is one of my core values. And I just love, connecting with other people, hearing their stories, what their journey has been, and allowing them to share that with you. So you can connect more fully with your own spiritual self and find out what is it from their journey that can help you. Yeah, it's all about connection and also learning what they do, currently. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can learn tonight. And I'm very excited to introduce you to my guest, Kristy Vanacore. Welcome to the show, Kristy.
Hi, Katie. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to connect.
Yes.
One day I'll meet you in person, but meanwhile, I'm going to put up your slide with your contact info. And everybody can know how to reach you while I introduce you. Okay. I'm just going to read a little bit about Kristy because you guys don't know her yet. So Dr. Kristy Vanacore is a holistic psychologist. She's a spiritual visionary, a modern medicine woman, author, and a mom of 2 with over 2 decades of experience, radically revolutionizing the field of health and wellness with her innovative offerings, which you'll hear more about shortly. Yeah, so she integrates ancient wisdom with modern science to empower people to reclaim their self-healing capacities, which is very important, and their abundant joy and vitality within. Kristy's goal is to get people off the therapy couch, independent of pills and practitioners and programs, and just soaring through life. She's been featured nationally and internationally on podcasts, TV shows, radio shows, all sorts of stuff. She is the author of the book, Rewilding: A Woman's Quest to Remember Her Roots, Rekindle Her Instincts, and Reclaim Her Sovereignty. Don't you love that title? Co-author of the book, Ancestors: Divine Remembrances of Lineage, Relations, and Sacred Sites. She is also currently working on 2 additional books. All right. Her wellness retreats are world-renowned, curated events that bring the deepest transformation to many. And I know you're going to hear more about the retreats shortly. All right, so let me take down the slide. And again, welcome to the show, Kristy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And with everyone out there.
I know, and I love your background. I hope you'll share a little bit about that once we get started, Yeah. But as you know, I always like to start asking
all of the guides are here.
Yeah, they are. I can feel them, the presence. It's remarkable. Yeah. So I want to start with the first question. Please tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey, how you got to where you are, maybe a little bit, whatever you want to share, really.
Yeah, okay, sure. So my journey, I would say that my true kind of spiritual journey, my initiation or awakening, we use all of these words, was really catalyzed by the birth of my first son. So up until that point, I had been, frankly, bulldozing through life. I was a super driven, type A, perfectionist, just moving through life at lightning speed and just trying to keep moving, right? Keep swimming, keep moving. That was my motto. And I didn't know it at the time that all of that frenetic, even neurotic way of moving through life at lightning speed was all a trauma reaction. It was all a trauma response to years and years of trauma that had been buried, right? And we know that trauma lives in our connective tissues, right? Our issues live in the tissues. And I, at the time, was not aware of this. So, I just thought I was, an ambitious, kid at the time, just plowing through. And at one point, Spirit intervened and said, oh no, it's time. We have to stop. And I had my first son, and it was an incredibly traumatic birth experience in which both he and I almost lost our lives. And that trauma really just triggered all of the past traumas in my life that I had been so, artfully and carefully trying to shove away and hope they would just go away. And that really triggered everything. So my son's birth catalyzed a major rebirth for me. And at the time, I was already a practicing psychologist, and I had been trained very traditional, doctoral level psychologist. I had been indoctrinated with the training of, what we see on the surface. The symptomatology needs to be diagnosed. It needs to be medicated. It needs to be therapized. And this is just the way of healing. And at the time, it wasn't working for my clients, and it also wasn't working for me as a consumer in the system. So I had been trying to get help for myself. I had been in talk therapy. I was trying all of the modalities that I was trained to offer others, and nothing was working. There was something else missing. And around that time, I started having dreams, and I started having remembrances of a time that, from early childhood in this life, from past lives, all of a sudden things were coming back to me. And I didn't understand it. I had no idea what was going on, and I honestly, I thought I was going crazy. And here I was at home with this newborn baby, trying to nurse him, trying to run a business, trying to be a dutiful wife, trying to still go back to my bulldozing ways. And Spirit was like, no way. And I was in paralysis to the point where I was diagnosed with lupus so severely that I could not get from my bathroom, from my bed rather, to my bathroom without crawling on the floor, because I was in so much pain in my body. So I was really leveled. And nothing that I knew how to do, nothing in my toolbox was working, and nobody could help me. And again, parallel process where nothing was happening with my clients. And I thought, okay, there's got to be a better way. And so I embarked on this journey, knowing instinctually that there was something else, something more. And I dove back into all of my training in trauma healing, somatic experiencing. I reconnected with shamanic practice, which little did I know, I had been practicing as a child when I was having visions as a child, and I was outside in nature communicating, with all the things, right? With all beings. And suddenly this was coming back. And I started to realize that what was in the way was all of this conditioning, all of these limiting beliefs that were nothing more than trauma responses, right? Coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms that had formed this personality. And that's who I thought I was. I thought I was this high achieving, super driven, super anxious automaton, when in fact, that wasn't me at all. And what I quickly realized, and this terminology came to me because I started studying, I wanted to really understand all things human, meaning what does it really mean to be this spiritual being in this human body? What is this really all about?
Yeah, good question.
Beyond that which they've into anthropology, I started studying land and animal studies and conservation. And I came upon this concept known as rewilding. And it was a fascinating concept where, these land and animal conservationists were noticing that animals who had, originally in their true essence been wild, but then became domesticated, started becoming really sick with these unknown problems that nobody could figure out how to heal. With unknown personality characteristics, these animals became wildly aggressive, unnaturally so. And the same was true for the land. These lands that were once, completely free to blossom, right? Once humans intruded upon them and started interfering with their natural growth, suddenly the forest stopped growing. And suddenly there was, toxic development in the forest. And these land and animal conservationists, these guys were based in California, the research that I was doing. They said, what would happen if we put these animals back in the wild? And what would happen if we restored these lands back to their natural states, right? And removed human intrusion. And a fascinating thing happened. These animals healed. These animals were no longer aggressive. These forests came back to life. And it was miraculous. And I read that. I'm getting full body chills as I'm telling you this story. I read that and I thought, oh man, I need a rewilding. My clients need a rewilding. It's time. Right. And so began my journey of going back and remembering my roots and rekindling my instinctual wisdom and reclaiming my sovereignty. And by sovereignty, what I realized is we, meaning myself, my clients, humans as a whole, right?
Everybody, really.
Everybody. We needed to reclaim our natural state. And for humans, it is our boundless joy, our ingenuity, our creativity, right? Our unconditional loving nature, right?
Yes.
Self-healing capacities. Humans are self-healers. We as humans in these miraculous, marvelous bodies are equipped with everything we need to heal ourselves and keep ourselves healthy and whole in mind, body, and spirit. But we have become disconnected from this. And what has disconnected us? Domestication, right? And by domestication, I mean all of the conditioning, all of the dogma, all of the indoctrination. So I then became fiercely committed to this approach of rewilding, helping myself and helping others emancipate themselves from the domestication of tolerance, of apathy, of distraction, of dependency, right? And reclaiming the sovereignty of boundless joy and freedom and self-healing capacities. And suddenly everything shifted. Suddenly the game changed. I was no longer debilitated by chronic illness. I was no longer debilitated by anxiety. And I had suffered with anxiety from the time I was 4 years old is when I can remember having my first panic attack. And, at the time I didn't know what to call it, and back then this language really wasn't a thing. But in retrospect, I can look back and say, yeah, I remember lying on the floor and my mind racing and my heart racing. And I was terrified and consumed with feelings of dread from that age of 4. And I lived my life that way.
Wow.
Right? So suddenly this rewilding journey just propelled me on this healing mission. And I was not only offering this to myself, but I was offering it to all of the people I was working with. And then I quickly realized, okay, it is my responsibility to rewild the entire field of mental health and wellness, because the field of psychology, of healthcare is really missing the boat. We have got to get people back to the root, to the essence, reconnected with soul, reconnected with spirit, so that we can thrive in our wholeness. And this field, as it still is, was just missing the mark on that. And so that's what really led me down this path of starting this entire program for true health and wellness called Rewilding.
Oh, Kristy, that is just amazing. That's incredible. I'm so in awe of what you've accomplished. And I know you do it for yourself to start with, but, from your heart for everyone else, for the whole, all humans, as you described.
Yeah. And I learned very early in my life that everything that I had experienced was happening for me so that I could help other people with it. Ever since I was a little girl, I knew that I was very called from little to bring people together. I was very called from a young girl to be in that place of showing people the way when they couldn't see one for themselves. And I learned that everything that was happening for me, not to me. And that changed the game for me, And so now I really see that all of the wisdom that I've accumulated on my journey, it's not mine to keep, it's mine to share. And I really feel wholeheartedly that it is my responsibility to almost be a lantern, and light the way for other people in the role of a mentor. I don't call myself a healer. I don't call myself even, I use this term holistic psychologist because it's sort of what people can cling to a little bit. Yeah. They recognize, but I don't even like this language. I'm not a therapist. I'm not here to heal anyone. I'm not here to fix anyone. No one's broken. I'm simply here to mentor you and guide you back home to yourself, because you have everything you need inside of you. And I simply provide the parameters to help you remember who you are, right? So this whole process is sort of like an unlearning. The world got its grips on you and domesticated you, right? Before the world told you who you should be.
You're right. No, I think that's totally, I'm totally in agreement with that.
Yeah.
It is our job to facilitate that and to help people see it, because the first step is awareness. And that's why I'm so happy we're having this conversation.
Yes.
People can just be aware of it and look into it for themselves, and whatever that looks like, right?
Right. Absolutely. I always say, what I want to do is just open people's eyes to see that things can be different, to see that there's an alternative. And, I meet people where they're at, of course, but it's just to start to wake up and say, gee, maybe there's a different way than what I've been conditioned to believe. Maybe there's another way that I can look at myself. There are right now 88% of Americans, these are adults only, the statistics for kids is even more staggering. 88% of adults diagnosed with multiple chronic physical and psychological ailments.
Wow.
And these people are walking around believing themselves to be broken, believing themselves to be a slave to the system, believing that there is nothing within them that can control the outcome of their lives. And that is just so not true. And so if I can just offer people, just open their eyes a little to say, okay, maybe there's something more here for me, right? Then I've done my job. Because I know for me, once my eyes were opened, I always say you can't unsee what you've seen, right? And once once my eyes were open, I'm like, there's no turning back now, right? And I just, then kept moving forward. And once I saw my life through different lenses, everything shifted. And so I really just want to give that gift to so many people. And, I say to people like, look, I have been there. I've lived it. I'm still on the journey, take my hand because we're in this together.
Right. That's perfect. We're all in this together, and
yes,
walk each other home, as we say.
That's right.
Yeah. All one. Right. We're not only all connected, but we're all one. And I know
we are all
thoughts
one.
on that as well. Right.
Yeah. We're all one. And that so interestingly, right, as a young girl, when I would have these experiences out in nature, and I grew up in the city. And so, nature was somewhat hard to come by. But I would go to the botanical gardens every weekend, or I'd find the most tiniest patch of grass in the city. And I would be, so connected, and I would be communicating in ways that I didn't understand how I was. But I felt connected to something bigger than myself, even from then. But that, again, got kind of domesticated out of me. And once I began my healing journey, that was coming back to me. And one of the most profound ways that I learned about this concept of unity, that we're all one, was by going on a retreat. And, it wasn't in my yoga trainings. I had been a, yoga teacher, and, they talk about yoga, meaning union. And that wasn't even enough to do it for me, for me to really understand what that was all about. It was going on a retreat in which, for me at the time, this was maybe 15 years ago now, it was leaving my home, really going on a true vision quest, and gathering with 15 strangers, right? 15 women who I had never seen before in my life, leaving my home alone for the first time, because I had previously been too terrified. I didn't go away to college. I didn't do anything alone, And I had been with my husband since I was 15, dating and then married. So I did everything, I never did anything alone. This was a huge deal for me to go on this retreat. And being in this gathering, surrounded by sisterhood, right? Connected in unconditional love and regard for one another. I can remember the first night of this retreat, tears streaming down my face. Because first of all, I remembered a time in other lives when I did that, right? I was remembering my roots. And I also recognized right in that moment that really deep embodied feeling of being connected to all that is. And that is when it really hit home for me. And I thought, wow, We really are all one. And it was powerful.
Wow. Sounds like it. And now you're doing your own retreats.
Yes, yes. And it's, again, being a little girl, I always was the one who gathered everyone. It was sort of my birthright. And I know that's why I'm here, is, bringing people together. And so although, in my rewilding work, I work with people one-on-one or small groups. I also offer classes and workshops and all these offerings, but it's really these collective healing experiences of these immersive retreats that are being experiences. And, I, because of the influence of shamanic practice in my life, I set these retreats up just as vision quests, right? So, and, years ago, if you had been ill with anything and you had gone to a shaman or a medicine person in the village, they would ask you 4 questions. When did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop believing in the magic of storytelling? And when did you stop finding comfort in silence? And those were considered the 4 universal healing salves because they were what would reconnect you back to your soul and back with spirit. Because it was known that illness or dis-ease, right? This is our modern word of disease, dis-ease of any kind, was due to a soul disconnection and a spirit disconnection that in our human body manifested as energy imbalance, right? And so it was thought that if you connected with these healing salves and then you went out on this vision quest, so you left behind all the distraction, all the domestication, completely unplugged, right? And went out into the woods and had nothing there but connection with your inner landscape, right? And communion with nature and connection with spirit, that was how we healed. And so my mission became, how can I integrate those enduring techniques, those enduring wisdom practices with modern science in order to help modern people thrive? And that's exactly what happens on these retreats. It is a beautiful marriage of ancient wisdom, modern science. It's a shamanic ceremony from start to finish, where we gather in sisterhood. I also do events and retreats for men, for teens, for kids. I've got coming up a women's wellness retreat in October in the Catskill Mountains, the really deeply sacred lands of the Catskill Mountains. And it's a true healing and transformative experience in every way, shape, and form. And so, and then in addition to, this gathering and the fire ceremony and the drumming circles, there's bioenergetics. I'm also a vocal resonance coach. So showing people the magic and the power of sound medicine and how our most powerful instrument that exists is the human voice. And that with the human voice, we can transform and restore harmony into our physical and energetic bodies and minds. So it's a powerhouse packed weekend of all of this healing. And honestly, I truly believe that one of that connection and sisterhood, we are supposed to heal together. Not only the enduring ancient techniques tell us this, but modern science tells us that our nervous system regulates in connection with others.
Absolutely. Yes. It's
vital.
Yeah. Well, this has been fabulous talking to you and learning about. The one thing we didn't get to talk about was your book. Just hold it up real quick. So it's
my book, baby. This is Rewilding. This is my memoir. It is the story of my healing journey. And never was my intention to write a book at all, but I am an open book and always have been with clients, really showing up authentically with people. And my clients said, the world is ready for your story. Tell it. And I said, okay.
That's great.
So, here it is.
They can look at that on your website too. Well, we're going to have to wrap up But again, thank you so much for being here and sharing everything with us today, Kristy.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie. Thank you
All
everyone
right.
for listening.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
No, bye.
Namaste.